My amazing guest today, Jillian Sidoti, is one of the preeminent real estate crowdfunding lawyers in the country. She represents some of the most influential crowdfunding industry leaders, including none other than Grant Cardone, to name but a few. She was one of the first people to publish a book about crowdfunding and is without doubt one of the highest energy professionals I have the pleasure of working with. Welcome. Adam Gower here, your host at the Real Estate Crowdfunding Show syndication in the digital age at gowercrowd.com. And what you're going to be learning about today on the show is the answer to one of the questions I get most frequently asked. At what point does online activity move from being educational or social to being active solicitation and business? So as you probably know, Gower Crowd builds best-of-class digital systems for real estate developers so they can raise more money online. We do this for our private clients by creating massive amounts of tailored educational content for them so they can identify prospects on social media and through other means and establish a relationship with those prospects by delivering high-value educational content. Now, at a certain point, our clients want to provide access to investment opportunities to prospects and to existing investors, of course. And you're going to learn from Jillian today exactly how to make that transition from the educational to the solicitation. Now, if you're interested in raising money online and you'd like to know exactly what kind of system we do build for our private clients so you can build one yourself, check out the whiteboard workshop on the podcast page for today's episode where I walk you through the entire system in detail. Plus, we're also still running a promotion on the Investor Acquisition System Master Course, an online course that you can take in your own time. So keep an eye out for banners for that also there at gowercrowd.com. Right, and so now without further ado, listen in to hear why my guest today is recognized as one of the top real estate crowdfunding lawyers in the country, how she attracts the top real estate crowdfunding clients, and the answers to all your questions about how, when, and why you can do what when you're raising money online. My great pleasure to introduce Jillian Sidoti of Crowdfunding Lawyers, LLP. Jillian, what a pleasure to see you again. It's always such a pleasure. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on my podcast. I know you're very busy, so let's jump in. I want to ask you one question that I am asked all the time by my clients and people that come to me and take my courses. They want to know, can I do what you're telling me I can do? And what I do, as we discussed before we got onto this thing, was I create massive amounts of educational content for real estate developers to go out online. But at what point do they cross the line and start to get into securities regulations? Tell me, what is that line? What does it look like?
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. You know, I was super excited. You asked me yesterday if I'd be on your show, and I said, yeah, I'll do it tomorrow. So excited to be here. Thank you very much. So yeah, it is not a super bright line, right? So, and then there's kind of issues with seeing, trying to get around the law, right? Or people trying to imply something without actually saying it. So the question you asked first was, is what I'm doing okay putting out massive amounts of education? Education, you should be educating constantly. You should never stop educating. If you are a multifamily or a syndicator or a multifamily developer, you should be constantly telling people, this is what we're seeing in the market. This is what we did to this building. This is how we were able to increase rents. This is why we like cap rates at this level. Whatever it is, you should tell people why. And, as Simon Sinek says, always start with why. And that is the first thing you want to start with, and you never want to stop. So when do you cross that line? It's when you stop talking about why in the sense of an educational, what makes this a great investment opportunity? Why do we do it? To now, here's what we're offering to you, here's what we're looking for from you. It's when you turn the tables from what you're giving to the audience to what you want from the audience. And that's really what it comes down to. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to do this, and you just need to make sure you're not stepping over, enemy lines.
Right. So let me jump. Let's break this down into like the real steps, right?
Yeah.
Kind of the process of this, the investor journey as we bring them.
Yeah.
So the beginning of the journey is education. What's an IRR? Why do we use cap rates? Why do we, where do we go to? What are the best cities to invest in real estate in, et cetera, et cetera? Kind of general information that is ideally unique to the sponsor's own value proposition, right? That's kind of the basic. And so the way we do that is we put out articles on social media, on YouTube, etc., and we send emails to prospects, right? So we're creating this lead generation machine that is asking for names and email addresses, and then we're connecting with people via email. Now, in those emails, we are also sending educational content. Here, check out this article on the cap rate, right? On our view of cap rates.
Right.
Okay, so then a deal shows up.
Mm-hmm.
And now we want to convert, we want to transition from education to conversion of those prospects. So in that email, I'd love to get really detailed on this. In that email, can I say, hey, we've got a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Minimum investment, 25,000, projected IRR, 15%. Invest now, click here.
So it depends. That's the typical lawyer response, right? So it depends. And what it depends on is what I like to refer to as which legal bucket do you fall into. As I like to kind of try to simplify a very complicated law. So there's more to meets the eye in what I'm about to explain. But as far as I'm concerned, there's 4 buckets when we talk about the federal securities law. And what we want to focus on are the two main buckets, as I like to call them, are 2 rules under the same regulation. It's called Regulation D, and the 2 rules are Rule 506B and 506C. And so if you're doing an offering under 506C, and that's C's and cats, then what you're able to do is you're able to raise as much capital as you want from as many accredited investors as you want, and you could do exactly what you said in your email. By the way, I want to clarify, you could do what you said in your email as long as it's the truth, right? So, and what I'm talking about is
right. Yeah.
15% IRR. If you know that's not true, then you shouldn't be saying it anywhere, but let's just assume that it's true. So 506C, accredited investors only. General solicitation, like that email, is allowed. But what does it mean to be accredited? Accredited investor is somebody who makes at least $200,000 a year as an individual, $300,000 a year as a married couple, or has $1 million in net worth exclusive of their primary residence. And you have to verify that they're accredited.
Okay, hang on. So I got to jump in. So let's really break this down. So first of all, I've said, can I send this email? There were 3 things that I picked specifically about that: minimum investment, a projection of some sort, and a button that says invest now. So an active solicitation.
Right.
So understanding the accredited investor thing, by the way, the only reason I'm looking to the side while I talk to you is I'm actually looking at my notes here, just on top of this. So, I'm not checking email or anything. So now I have a list. Let's say I've got a list of 25,000 people in my database. If I don't know that they are accredited, or what their status is, can I send that email, or can I send it and then tell them you can only invest if you're accredited?
You can only send that email still. You can only do general solicitation, no matter who it goes out to. It doesn't matter if it's going out to just accredited investors or a 25,000 person mailing list where you don't really know anybody on, only in the event that you're doing one of two offerings, that 506C, where it's to accredited investors only, or what's called a Regulation A offering, where you're allowed to solicit anybody and mostly take money from anybody, so long as you get approved by the Securities Exchange Commission. That's a bigger type of offering. A lot of the bigger real estate developers use that. That's what the Fundrises of the world uses, that Regulation A. But yes, you can still send out that email so long as that offering is pursuant to 506C or Regulation A.
Right. So to clarify, if it's 506C, this is very technical. Right? We kind of dive very deep, very fast, which is great. But if it's 506C, that means that I can send that to anybody, but in order for them to invest, they have to become accredited by either, I have to, what is it? Not best effort, reasonable efforts, or use a third party or whatever it is to actually accredit them. But it's okay for me to send that three-pronged email to anybody, irrespective of whether or not I know that they are accredited.
Right. Correct.
Now, if I'm doing a 506B, that email is forbidden, right?
You should, if you're doing a 506B and you send that email out at all, you've ruined your exemption. So what's 506B? Let's define that real quick. So 506B is an offering where you can raise as much money as you want, but you can only raise money from people you have a substantive pre-existing relationship with. A substantive pre-existing relationship means that you have intimate knowledge of one's financial ability to invest. And so this means that people who are sophisticated or accredited, those are the only two types of people you can take money from. Those are people who have the financial ability to invest according to Securities Exchange Commission and the laws. And a sophisticated investor is somebody who understands the risks associated with investing, but may not be quite accredited. They might not have the income or the net worth of an accredited investor. And we've already defined an accredited investor. So you have an expansion of the type of investor you can take, but a contraction of who you can reach out to in terms of your solicitation. So that email would be completely illegal on a 506B.
Fine. So if that was the case, could I do this? Can I say, we have a deal, you have to be accredited or sophisticated by these rules, right? Click here to find out what that means. If you're not sure, click this link to find out more. And on that landing page that they end up as, it says something like, yes, I am accredited, right? Yeah. If they go through that firewall, can I then show them these three prongs? Minimum, here's our projections, and please invest now.
Not necessarily, because you've now conditioned the market. They know there's a deal. You've solicited somebody to come in. This is where it gets really dicey, right? Because we want people to come to us. But it's the minute you start implying that there's any kind of deal to be had that we kind of get into a difficult situation. And some states don't appreciate what they call conditioning the market. And I've actually received a letter on behalf of one of my clients years ago for quote unquote conditioning the market. And this was what was on their website. We provide our investors opportunities to invest in Midwest real estate without having to leave the comfort of their home. There was no deal spoken about. There was nothing. It was just the implication that they want investors to come into their deal, and they considered, and the letter that I got from the state was, this isn't a general solicitation. They got that right out of the way. However, you are conditioning the market. You're trying to get people in through some means of general solicitation, even if you're not offering them a specific deal. We know what you're up to. Cut it out. So you gotta be, when you're under 5.
Yeah, but isn't that just a little bit enthusiastic? I mean, you've got a bureaucrat sitting in an office somewhere who doesn't really understand what it's all about. That's one example from many years ago. I could point you to 1,000 websites. That
Oh yeah. Oh no. I'm just giving you the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Right.
Will you get in trouble? It's probably not. You know, like these are just things you want to be aware of more than anything else. We all take reasonable risks in regards to all of this. So let's talk about. I kind of want to flip the tables on you, if you don't mind, for a second, and talk less about can I do this, and instead talk about what you can. Instead of telling you no, you can't do that, I want to talk about what you can do. Let's say you have the deal of a lifetime, and you're doing this under 506B. What you really should be doing is saying that continuing on that trajectory of education. And you know, we have a really great deal, no offer. We have a really great deal that's coming up in Houston. We're still very bullish on the Houston area because of the following reasons. You're still providing that value. If you want to find out more information on why we're so bullish in Houston, no offer, click here. And it leads them to an investor qualification form. And the investor qualification form asks them those questions that you need in order to establish a pre-existing relationship. How much money do you make? Are you accredited? Are you sophisticated? Where's your education from? Like all those questions. Then you get that, and now you've established that pre-existing relationship. And maybe not on this deal, but on the next deal, now you have that pre-existing relationship and you can make them an offer in the future.
And would a phone call also qualify if you have a phone call before somebody invests?
You can always have a phone call, but like, what do you want when there's a trial against you? You want something in writing, so that investor qualification form is always great. But phone calls are great just because you want to make sure you're talking to a real person who's not crazy. And honestly,
well, right.
Yeah. And the thing is, for me, what I think people forget often is that they're, you know, they're going into a partnership with this investor. They might not seem like a partnership because the investor is passive and you're active, but you really are truly getting into a partnership with this person. And a bad investor can ruin the deal for everybody. So my advice to all of you people out there who are raising capital for the first time, and don't have these great, wonderful systems in place, or are not experienced in doing this, is that you want to vet your investors as hard as they are vetting you. You want to make sure that you're not letting Satan through the front door, right? To wreak havoc on everybody. So I don't know why Satan or the lock,
or whoever it is, right? But so yeah, somebody as bad, because you have to make it seem as absolutely as bad as it can possibly be.
Yeah, Satan's probably the scariest, right? So you don't want to.
All right, but hang on. But give me an example of what a dastardly, awful, you know, investor could do.
Yeah, I have a great one. I have this client of mine.
By the way, by the time we finish this, nobody's going to do any crowdfunding again. They're all going to walk away.
By the way, I'm not trying to tell you to do this, because with the method I just told you about is like calling, you know, sending stuff out, and then, you know, really getting people to get educated and get to know you as an expert is an amazing way to getting great people who already know, like, and trust you. Now it's your turn to know, like, and trust them. That's all I'm saying. So they know and like, trust you. That relationship is somewhat worked on already. Now we're going to turn the tables. That's all I'm asking you to do. I'll give you one scary story and then no more scary stories. So many years ago, I had a client of mine who was buying mobile home parks, and they had one investor that they allowed in, like almost like charity allowed him in. He invested the least amount of money. He invested $10,000. And then he just didn't like the way things were going. It was just crazy. He liked drama, you know, he didn't like the way things are going. So my client said to him, look, you know, and they hadn't done everything perfectly. My clients weren't complete angels, but they also hadn't done anything completely wrong either. And so this investor comes in and goes, I want to take over the company. You guys are doing a terrible job, blah, 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 blah. And my clients were like, well, no, we're just going to give you your money back and you're going to go away. And he's like, nope, that's not what we're going to do. I'm going to hire a lawyer. And he hired like the most unscrupulous attorney he could find. And we're talking like really hyperbole here, right? But I also don't want you to think, well, that would never happen to me, because it happened to them and they thought it would never happen to them. But he hired a really unscrupulous attorney, and they ended up litigating it for years and years and years. My clients eventually won, but they also lost because of all the legal fees, the lost time, the lost energy, the lost sleep, the lost whatever. And we don't want that to happen to you. And it could have all been avoided had they just thoroughly vetted that investor prior to that investor coming through the door.
It's an interesting thing that you say that. Well, because I've been asked throughout my career, I'm not a lawyer, obviously. So, but you put contracts together, and you might ask, am I going to get sued? Well, you know what? At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter what you do or how bulletproof your contracts or how much you spend on preparing. Yes, the answer is you can get sued. It doesn't matter. Only a court will actually decide at the end of the day whether or not your contracts are any good. So the fact is that that possibility is always going to be there, right, Jillian?
Absolutely. It's always there. And so that's why we hedge ahead of time. We hedge with really good documents, with following the law and vetting our investors. And so then there's going to come a point in time where you're going to grow big enough that you're not going to be vetting your investors. So that's where those other two factors come in, really important. Having those good documents, and then having following the law as best you can. These are tricky laws. And so that's why I say as best you can, because even the best sometimes have a little error or a mistake or forget something. So.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you've written a book. I've got it here in front of me. I'm trying to see what, the crowdfunding myth.
Yes.
That's what you wrote about, and I know you've got another one coming out.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you though, if anybody wants that book for free, I will send it to you, because it's really good book, by the way. It's a great book, a little out of date. So I don't want you to buy something that you're like, I wish I didn't spend the $10 on this little.
No, but you're right. It is a little bit out of date, but when it was published, it was way ahead of the curve. So, right? But that's the speed things are moving at the moment, particularly.
I know, it's so true.
So tell me something. Now, you've talked about Reg C, Reg D. Reg D 506C, 506B, Reg A, etc., etc. Tell me something give me an example of one of your kind of the clients. I don't mean a name. I mean, what do they look like, right? What is it the typical or best what do they look like, your clients?
A lot of my clients are coming to me with hat in hand a lot of times, right? They're coming to me and I want to put them in complete ease. I don't know how to do this. I don't know what to do. I've never done it. I might have raised some money from my friends and family before, but now I'm really looking to up my game, build my business, get to the next level, buy more properties, whatever that looks like. That's what they're looking to do. And so we're here to hold their hand and say, it's going to be all right. You just got to listen to us and have really great documents and really and here's another thing that I can't make you do, but I want you to do: treat your investors with the utmost reverence and respect, right? Treat them like your grandma on Sunday afternoon, right? You always call your grandma on Sunday afternoon. You want to regularly communicate with those investors and let them know where their investment is, whether it's okay or not. Don't ever forget to make that Sunday afternoon phone call. And obviously you're not going to call your investors every week. They'll just get annoyed with you. But you do want to report to them on a regular basis, whether that's monthly or quarterly. But do what you say you're going to do, and then do it. Or wait, I already said to do it.
Yes, do what you're gonna. Well, anyway, we get the idea. So actually, you reminded me that I haven't called my aunt yet. So I do need to call my aunt. She gets very upset when I don't call her every single day to make sure she's still vertical. Serious, I'm serious.
Where is she?
Yeah,
where is she sitting?
She's in London.
She is.
Yes,
very good.
She wants me to check in, and if she doesn't answer the phone, I have to call. God knows who I have to call. But anyway, that's aside. I'm 6,000 miles away, but I have forgotten to call her. So I'm glad you reminded me. Are you a real estate specialist, or are your clients kind of like all over the board? Just like tell me, like, yeah.
Yeah. No, they're all over the place, but the bread and butter, the number one person who comes to me is the real estate entrepreneur. But we do other verticals as well. Like we've done some cannabis deals, film, alcohol. The client I was talking to right before I got on with you is a football helmet manufacturer. So yeah, all kinds of great opportunities and different technologies. Biotech of course is huge, right? Biotech's always huge, but it's huge right now with the pandemic and everything. So yeah.
And they're all raising money, are they? It's all securities stuff.
All securities. Oh yeah, no. We don't do anything except companies who are looking to raise capital for their deals.
Jillian, I just noticed the time, and I know that you've got a hard stop. So let me, can I ask you 3 very fast sign-off questions? Really quick. I ask all of my guests.
That was question. That's number 1. No, I'm just.
No, that was, okay, 4 questions, including that. It's like Monty Python. No, that's 4 questions. What's the most important thing somebody starting out syndicating real estate online should keep in mind?
They should keep in mind that what they're saying on the internet is is forever out there because somebody's screenshotting it. So be very careful on how you say things, how you word things. Words mean stuff on the internet. So be mindful of that, and just know that you're not invisible once you're out on the internet.
Second question, what's been the hardest lesson you have personally learned online?
Is that the hardest lesson I've learned online? Oh gosh, that's a good question. It goes back to the words matter. I watch Facebook commenters or people who comment on anything, and the minute they start using questionable language or start making invalid arguments, no matter what you're talking about. And I see this in the real estate space. I'm not just talking about political talk or anything like that. You start chipping away at your credibility as an issuer. And so you want to be mindful of that.
Last question. What are your key daily habits that keep you successful again in the online space? Because I know you do a lot of digital marketing.
Online space. Okay, so one thing I do is I keep my audience engaged, and I recognize them. So this goes back to reverence for your investors. This is for your network in general, but especially respect and have reverence towards your investors, but also have respect and reverence towards any of your followers, because you never know when they're going to turn into an investor. So you want to start the relationship off right. And so for me, I have that way with contacts online, because I never know when they're going to turn into a client or a friend or something. Like it transcends. You just want to have respect for people. And so my habits, especially in my Facebook group, the Crowdfunding Lawyers Facebook group, what I do is if somebody makes a comment and they're looking for feedback, or they're looking for even a like, likes mean stuff in this world, I go and do it, because it takes me 2 seconds and it makes that person's day. I don't know what effect that has on that person's day. So I always try to think about the feelings, even though feelings are fleeting, the feelings and the soul of the person who's on the other side of that computer screen.
Ah, what a lovely way to sign off, Jillian. Thanks so very much. Jillian Sidoti, one of the top lawyers in crowdfunding, real estate crowdfunding in the country. Thank you so very much for being on my show.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
That was Jillian Sidoti of Crowdfunding Lawyers, attorney to the stars, not least of which is the ultra famous Grant Cardone. Impressive stuff. I have included links to Jillian's firm and profiles, etc. on the podcast page for today's episode at yourcrowd.com, where you will also find our discounted investor acquisition system master course and links to the whiteboard workshop, where I show you how to build a best-of-class digital marketing system so you too can raise money online, all the while, of course, taking counsel from Jillian for what you can say and when you can say it. That's all there for you at yourcrowd.com. All right, that's it. Thanks for listening. And thank you, Jillian Sidoti of crowdfundinglawyers.net, for your time with me today. It is always an enormous pleasure to connect with you. Thank you. That's all for this episode. I'll see you next time. And in the meantime, stay well. And for now, this is Dr. Adam Gower signing off.